It says live.
All right. So let's get started. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Joyce Rojas here. I'm a money mindset mentor. And today I'm really excited to have Yulin Lee with me. And I would love for you, Yulin, to let us know what you do because it is very different. So I'd love to hear it from you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Joyce, for having me here. And this is particularly fun and interesting because you and I, we do very similar work. And so I love, I can talk about what we do all day long because I'm so passionate about what I do. So I am a money, wealth, and financial coach. I specifically work with women who are experiencing stress in life, and they know that a lot of the stress comes from the worry about money, and so my coaching is really based on education and guidance in helping them how to up level their own money savviness.
Mhm.
And I also specialize working with clients who are going through or are either thinking about going through divorce or currently going through divorce or have just gone through divorce. So basically there's, the pre, during, after.
Yeah.
I work with clients through all of that phase. So yeah. And
And I love that. And I love that. And yeah, we do things that are very, very similar. As you know, whoever's watching knows, I work with you on not only the money piece and the logical part of it because I have the financial advisor background, but I also help you with the mindset piece. And when I spoke to Yulin a while back and I met her, she specializes with people going through divorce, which I think is amazing because it is something that many women going through divorce feel like, okay, I don't know what to do next. And so that's what we're here to help all of you with. And so today we're going to be talking about, are you staying in the money, in the relationship for the money? So are you staying in a relationship because you're afraid of what could happen if you get out of the relationship? And both you and I, Yulin, have met a lot of people like that, of course. And so,
mhm.
what we're going to be going over today is what you can do. But first, I want to ask you a question: is how do you notice, like when you speak to your clients, how do you know? How do they know, right? So, if someone's at home right now sitting and wondering, am I staying in it for the money? How can
Right.
you kind of prompt them to know?
Right, right. Well, typically it's cases where they haven't been happy with the relationship, with the marriage. And certainly the thoughts of leaving have come up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main reason why they haven't pulled the trigger or they haven't stepped up to that, facing that reality is, maybe number one, if they have children, that's obviously the big factor that, the last thing we want to do is break up the family, because for the kids' sake. But then also another major thing is the finance piece. And so I think in some ways, most women who are in that state, they know that money is a big issue and the lack of independence is a big issue for them. And so really the question for them to be thinking about is, number one, because I don't ever want to promote divorce, but at the same time, if it is someone who's in if they're in a totally unhealthy abusive relationship, then
Right.
I would say you need to get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's not an abusive relationship, the question is, have you really done all the work to repair that relationship? And that includes family therapy or whatever. And part of that repairing could be, how to improve the relationship around money, because we know a large percentage of people going through a divorce, the main factor is the money piece, right? And so a lot of that comes from when couple get married, they don't talk about their values around money.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes the little um, conflicts show up on the day to day, through the day to day lives
Mm-hmm.
that because I used to be a financial advisor, right? And so, as you probably know too, is that when I talk to a couple, the conversation is one way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then at some point, I talk to one of the couple, maybe I talk to the man or maybe talk to the woman separately. I hear a completely different story, right?
Hmm.
And so so as an advisor, I already picked up that there are a lot of couples out there that they're not on the same page
Right.
in terms of finances or long-term goals. So that would be the first step, right? Is there a way to kind of mend that, to improve that, so that you can improve the overall relationship? But then
Absolutely.
if you've really already done that and it's just kind of at a point where, and I even know friends personally that they were really preferred to get out if
Hmm.
it wasn't for the money, right?
Yeah.
Or the lack of that independence. So then it's really about how do you prepare yourself. I've seen a lot of women who kind of resign to the fact that, well, I can't do it, and then so then they kind of change their life to a state of
They
resignation.
settle.
And
They settle, right? And so then
exactly.
and I think that that's, for anybody hearing this, I just want to clear things up. It's everybody in a relationship or in a marriage is going to want to be out. Like, let's be honest here. All of us that have been married at some point have said to ourselves, God, do I really want this? Because it does get difficult, right? And so it doesn't mean that, hey, that's the way to go. It means that, hey, there's a struggle or there's a challenge in the relationship, and you're going to choose to either make it work and do everything that you need to do to make it work, especially if there's children involved. And then if you've already gone that route, then what is it that you need to do to be able to get yourself ready to be out of
Right.
the relationship and be in a healthy financial state so that you don't have to stay in it? but um
Right.
but definitely, and that is what we're here today to talk about, is to help you get ready for that financial state, right?
Right. And I also just want to add one thing. I mean, even though we are talking about that one particular, incident of or scenario of a potential divorce, but really, you could think of your spouse or your significant other could be gone for whatever reason, right?
Absolutely.
I've had friends in my own circle that the husband got diagnosed with late stage cancer and boom, they're gone.
They're gone.
And
Yeah.
so so it doesn't have to be for divorce, but in
Absolutely.
terms of why you want to prepare yourself and to be more financially independent. So
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's a perfect thing to bring up. I've sat with many clients as an advisor. I've sat with many clients that now come to me and say, "I have no freaking clue." And the great thing is I know this, right? So as a mindset coach, I know how people function, and I had sat with the husband and gone over, what do you want if you were to pass, right? So I know
right,
all the answers to this, and I can sit with the woman and I can say, hey, this is what he told me, right? And
right,
this is what we're going to do, which is a
right,
wonderful thing. So now, I mean, I think that really what it comes down to is having a little bit more um, responsibility over the finances. And then
right,
when there's a possibility of your significant other not being around and you have not had that responsibility around the finances, it's a big wake up call. And so I
right,
think that's what, this whole stage now begins to occur, right? So
right,
let's jump right in. I'm going
right.
to start with steps, right? So the steps that you can take, that if you feel like it's moving in that direction, then what can you do to start getting yourself ready? Number one is going to be to understand what you truly want. Like, what do you want? And it's so funny because you may be like listening and then rolling your eyes and saying, well, of course, that's obvious. No, it's actually not that obvious. Many people don't know what they want in their lives. And I always make this example, or give this example, is that we get into our car and we know exactly where we're going. We get into an airplane and we know exactly where we're going. But when it comes to life, we don't know exactly where we want to go. And it's because we think we have so many days ahead of us, and we don't stop to think of the possibilities of things that can happen, right? And then we don't stop to think and say, what do I truly want, versus just going with what life is giving me. There's a
Right, right,
huge difference there.
right, right. It's part of like having been on the autopilot for a long, long time.
Absolutely. I call it walking through life. Yeah.
Right,
So you're sleepwalking through life. It is autopilot. And so it comes to a point where you realize you're on autopilot at some point, right? And so that's step one. Know what you want. Sit down and ask yourself, what do I want from my career? What do I want from my relationships? What do I want in my finances? What do I want for my health? What do I want to leave a legacy?
Right.
What do I want for fun? That's the other thing, and how do I want to grow? Those are the 7 areas of life that I take my clients through. And it's, what is it that you want in your life for personal growth? What kind of things do you want to do? So those are the things that I have them just look at and say, what do you want in those areas of life? And that's extremely important. That will be step number 1. What's step number 2, Yulin?
Well, step number 2 is, again, if that, what do I want, the context for what do I want would be, a life on your own. Then the number 1 thing you need to get clear on is your monthly expenses, right? Again, particularly important for women who haven't been involved with the household, the family finances. So that's like the number 1 thing you need to learn. And so, a lot of women, maybe a stay-home mom, or their main focus is on the children. They may have been doing all the grocery shopping, right? So in their mind, they know, oh yeah, how much, I know how much it costs, or how much we're spending on food, and or maybe tuitions for the kids. That's great, but that's only a portion of it, right? There's the the mortgages, the taxes, and all of the insurance, and all of the other stuff that typically has been managed by the man. And so those are all the things that you need to start having access to, and or know that it's all part of the whole package, right? And so to come up with a realistic number of, okay, if I were to go on my own, how much is it going to cost me to live per month? And that's the number 1 question we have to answer for ourselves.
Absolutely. And thanks for that. So then number 2 would be to know your numbers and understand what your monthly expenses are.
Right.
Number 3, I would suggest, is to check your mindset around money. Now, being in finance for 20 years, so I've been in banking and investments for 20 years, I know that there's more to money than knowledge. Absolutely. There is a whole mindset around money that's holding you back or can propel you forward. You decide. And so you need to know, what is your mindset around money? How do you see money? What limitations around money do you have? And how do you get rid of those subconscious belief systems? So a lot of us can be walking around with subconscious belief systems that began when we were kids. And then it was actually concrete, right? They were made concrete during our relationships. And so that is something that you have to check, is what is my money mindset? Easy way of doing that is checking what your money personality is. And so I kind of just go through certain personalities, and I can tell very quick, whose personality is what. And I'll give you some examples. Most women have the personality of a life enthusiast. So that's someone that is just like, hey, we're going to be spending for now. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So a lot of people have that. Most women actually have an innocent bystander personality around money. And that means, hey, we don't know what's happening in the finances. So yeah,
The avoidance.
we're not going to. Yeah. So that's that innocent bystander. And some have that big baller personality. And that's that person that really likes to shop, and they almost define themselves around the stuff that they get, or the things that they have, or this white picket fence, vision that they've set in their head, and they want to portray that. So those are typically the money personalities I see in women. But that is really important, is to understand your money personality and your money mindset around money, because you're going to have to shift that if you're going to be on your own.
Right.
Number 4.
So the next thing, other than the knowing the household expenses, is actually having access to all the financial documents in the family. Because again, all of these things that I'm talking about are really based on the experiences that I've seen with the clients that I work with, is that oftentimes they don't have access, because when everything's going well, it's really easy to just put it off and, oh yeah, he's taking care of everything, and so he has all the passwords, he has all the, he has the relationship with the financial advisors or the CPAs, and so that needs to change. That you need to have access to all of those documentations. And again, when I'm working with a client that's currently going through that divorce process, that could be one of the biggest hurdles at the beginning that they have to go through, is that if you end up in a not so friendly relationship, by the time that this is on the table, that's going to move forward, then I have seen men who going to make it very difficult for you to even access the information that you actually, you're completely entitled to. So that's, again, that's the second step of, our, maybe fourth step of preparing yourself, is that making sure you have all the access, all the passwords, knowing where everything is, the tax returns, the bank statements, investment accounts, retirement accounts. So yeah, life insurance policies. So all of those things, make sure you have access to.
And obviously, I mean, the easiest way to do that is if you're already considering it, then you probably want to start doing that now before it gets to a point where you're not going to be able to access it anyway, right? And unfortunately, like, hey, it's pretty much us saying, hey, be sneaky, but it kind of is what it is. I mean, if you are in a position, and that's why I tell women, this process shouldn't start when you're considering leaving a relationship. This process should start before. You should know what's happening in your money world and your world together as a joint person, right? So one way to be able to do that and to really begin to see what's going on with the numbers is to join the financial advisor. Financial advisors typically have either yearly, bi-yearly, quarterly meetings, and so, or conference calls. And so that is one thing that, yes, definitely join that. Join your spouse when there's the accounting, when you do taxes. That's another big eye opener. So those are like the biggest things I can think of. But you also mentioned something earlier, Yulin, is that how to begin to ask for it. What are ways that they can have that conversation?
Right. Well, part of having that conversation is, again, it depends on, where it is a little bit delicate. It depends on where the relationship is now, right? And so one way you can kind of approach this is coming from a perspective is, hey, we need to, especially given what's happening now, right? We need to prepare for the unthinkables, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if something were to happen, I need to know where everything is for the sake of the kids, right? And it's absolutely true. And so, or you can, a lot of it is also conversation. How well the conversation goes. It really depends on the setting. So find a time when everyone's in a good mood, right? And so make sure the context, the environment, the setting is right, is conducive for a conversation. And then it's really about, hey, I would love to learn a little bit more about our family. Like, how can I support more, the family more? What else can I do to support, in a sense that kind of like what you said earlier, is starting to become responsible. And sometimes psychologically, that financial responsibility could be very overwhelming. And that could be part of, you mentioned a lot of women, their money personality is avoidance, right? And so if you dig deeper, so why is the avoidance? Why is the tendency to avoid? A lot of it is also just, not wanting to deal with that responsibility, right? So if you've worked on that, on your own mindset, and then said, yes, I do need to be responsible, but also I need to own up to it. I own this, everything that we have. And so part of it is just coming into that that state of mind that I'm a co-owner of everything here. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, so I mean, just that responsibility of you understanding that this is your assets, your money, your house as well, your life as well, and then beginning to just take more responsibility and own up to it. And then one way of doing that is just going and saying, hey, I want to be a little bit more responsible and more active in our financial life. The other way that I've seen many women do this is being able to, and then just actually, when I say do this, it means beginning to get involved in the finances, is by saying, hey, I need to learn, right? I don't
Right.
want to
Right.
be that woman that's like, okay, I don't know what to do, and now you're gone, you've passed
Right.
or whatever. So I want to learn how to deal with this. It makes me feel better if I know how to
Right.
deal with it, because I feel kind of ignorant. And so then,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Now,
that would be a
right.
way of
Right.
learning.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, again, I think it depends on where it is, the relationship, right? If it's being rocky, then that might provoke some
Absolutely. Some eyebrow
suspicion
raising. Yep.
about why do
Yep.
you want to learn now all of a sudden, right? Because
Yeah.
I've seen my clients go through that, right? And
Right.
so, and if that's really the case, then part of it is you need to stand in your own power and not to back down, right?
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, part of it is it could just be as simple as when you go, like you mentioned earlier, when you go to the meetings to meet the financial planners or your CPAs, actually pay attention to what they're saying and ask questions
Mhm.
directly. Because I know a lot of my clients, they say, oh yeah, I know, I go to the meetings, blah blah blah, and my husband shows me all the statements, but they go through that as a ritual, but they don't actually really see the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
And
They're not.
so it's again, it's a lot of it is about shifting our behavior, right? Is
Mhm.
of, am I just kind of floating and going through the ritual, or am I actually owning up and stepping up to say, yeah, I'm at this meeting, and whatever you guys just said, I didn't understand. Can you repeat that again for me?
Mhm.
And because that's part of also learning to have that confidence. Is oftentimes I find women like too afraid to ask when it comes to finance and money related issues. And so it's about training ourselves to say, hey, I didn't understand it, just can you repeat it again?
Right, right. And then that's, I mean, when you bring something up, that is our next point, right? Our next step is to gain confidence, to begin gaining confidence. Because as women, when we are in a relationship and then let's say we have not been dealing with all the financial piece of it, we don't have the confidence at that point. And but then we also lose confidence in other areas of our life too, especially if we're moms. I remember I make a joke about it, but yeah, I'm not a sex kitten anymore. I'm more of a house cat. And so I remember feeling that, and that's a lack of confidence in um just my sexiness and who I really am. And you kind of lose yourself as a mother during motherhood and during um while you're married, because you tend to cater to other people and you forget what it is that you like. I remember one day I was at a grocery store, and then I looked at the shopping cart, and I realized that only probably two or three things were for me. Everything else was something my son liked. And so I realized, oh my God, I don't know what I like anymore. I don't know what kind of movies I like, because all I do is watch cartoons, Disney or Pixar movies. I don't like what kind of food. I mean, I don't know what kind of food I like, because all I get is what my son likes. You lose yourself in marriage, you lose yourself in motherhood. And so, just one way of being able to find yourself again and begin gaining that confidence is to begin being a little bit more for you, right? Just being more on your side and beginning to discover a little more of what it is you want. So going back to that question number one, where I said, what is it that you truly, truly want? Not the roles that you play in your life, but what do you truly want?
Right.
That can begin to just uncover certain things, because we all go through stages in our life. And one of our stages can be a great mom for this many years. And another stage can be a great wife. But then what happens when my son goes away to college next year? Then that stage is pretty much done. I mean, I'll always be a mom, but I don't have to be present there all the time anymore. And he won't
Right.
be. So that we go through different stages in life. And one way of gaining confidence is to be able to understand, what do you truly want, and then being able to speak up for yourself and for what's important to you, instead of constantly, speaking up and doing what's important to other people.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I mean, you also said it, right? You're in the meetings, and don't be afraid to say, you know what, I didn't understand that. Can you explain it in a different way? That
Right.
one, I would probably say, hey, can you explain that in a different way? Because I didn't get it. So yeah, it may be embarrassing because you're finally starting to maybe just get into this financial piece of it, but it'll give you confidence later on to know what you're talking about. The other thing you can do is you can begin, when you're in the meeting and you're listening to this, write notes down. And then you can come home and you can Google it, right? Or you have money coaches. There's 2 money coaches on this call right now that you can reach out to and say, hey, what the heck is this? Or
Right.
YouTube has a bunch of videos on there. So that's another way, is that writing notes down and then coming back and then researching what it is that they talked about, or asking maybe a friend that may know.
Right. And I'll add one thing which hopefully will help you feel a little bit better if you're really in that situation where you feel like it's too embarrassing to ask, right? The fact that, oh, I don't know this. But I will say that the fact that you had the courage to ask, people respect you a lot, for
Mm-hmm.
asking too. So
Right.
so don't feel like, I don't want to ask, because I know that's very prevalent, particularly for women, that oftentimes they don't want to ask. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so
Cause they
yeah,
don't want to maybe
speak up.
show like they don't know. They don't
Right,
know. They're, hey, I don't want to feel like I'm completely out there and ignorant
right,
about the stuff. But if you are, then hey, the first step you got to do is just admit it, right? And then do
right.
something about it. So, okay. So then now I know that there's another step that you wanted to go over, right?
Yeah. So I think that really that the last thing is, build a team for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this actually is could be applicable for everyone, right? Who really want to have some financial independence for themselves. Is that you don't have to do this on your own, and you don't have to be alone going through this process. I work with divorce coaches who help clients on the emotional aspect, a life aspect of it, and then I focus on the financial piece. And then I also work with a mediator, and so the three of us, we have a little team going on. And recently one of our clients said, I love it, you guys are my avengers. And so I would kind of encourage everyone out there to build a team for yourself, and to find the people that's going to be on your side and rooting for you. And you don't have to go through this alone, like I said. And I think this is particularly important for the divorce case, just because um, there's just so much shame and embarrassment around the whole event, the whole
Mm-hmm.
incident of going through a divorce, whether it's emotional or whether it's financial. For women, there's a lot of embarrassment and shame. And so oftentimes what happens is they don't reach out for help. And so then it becomes a really lonely process. And they even feel more vulnerable, and the burden is just heavier. So I always say, reach out and get help, and because you're not alone. And there's actually,
Yeah.
if you consider, no matter where in the world these days, it's like divorce rate is 50%, right? Unfortunately, it's that high.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
So, I
yeah.
mean, a couple of people to think about for, those listening out there is mediator, divorce attorney, financial advisor, a CPA or an accountant, realtor, because one of y'all is going to have to move. So, realtor, money coach, mindset coach or life coach, right? And a therapist. Those are pretty much the people you may be needing when this happens, and definitely have friends around that will help you emotionally, but also maybe some friends that have gone through the process. I remember when I got divorced, it was a really tough thing to go through. And then my friend ended up getting divorced maybe 5 years or so, 6 years later. And then she leaned on me because she's like, you did it like a champ. So I want to be, with you and find out what the heck you did to really go through this, because this is a horrible feeling. So Thank you so much, Yulin. And for those that are on the call, we will have some time for you to ask personal questions to us, but I'm going to stop the recording and the live right now. Yulin, how do they find you?
Well, so they can visit my website, and that is www.projectm, M like Mary, mindmoney.com.
Awesome. And so then if you're catching us on YouTube, but we will have it in the description on how you reach her. And then we're also going to have a web page on my site that is going to have all these leader calls so that you can just go through and sift through so many different leaders that have been on here that have given us such great information during this pandemic and during this crazy year. So thanks to all of you, and see you soon.